Okay. And I think, Marika, you will start the introduction or the coordinator.
Yes, so good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me well. So my name is Marika Kowalska, and welcome to today's webinar on dissemination for different stakeholders. In the next couple of minutes, I will give you a concise overview of what facility is, who is it for, what support you can expect, and how to apply effectively. So the widerAdvance facility is a European project. It's funded under Horizon Europe widerACL. It runs for 48 months from 1st January last year until 31st December 2028. And our main objective is to provide tailored expert services for organizations in widening countries and outermost regions, from IP and standardization to dissemination, exploitation, capacity building, to help transform research and project results into real world impact. In other words, the facility is about knowledge valorization. So the widerAdvance facility is delivered by a strong consortium. There are 17 partners coordinated by the Institute of Fundamental Technological Research, Polish Academy of Sciences. So as you can see, we work with experienced service providers and wide network of local partners across widening countries and outermost regions to reach eligible organizations and support them through the process. We also benefit from an external advisory board perspective. These are experts from academia, technology, transfer, investors, industry. So they are helping us to shape services that are practical, high quality, and relevant. But for whom is widerAdvance facility? So what's important that the target group is organizations, not single project or not individual researcher, but organization. And this is very important because the facility aims to create lasting change at institutional level, strengthening capabilities and that remain after service journey ends. So this is our main goal. And eligible organizations are based in widening countries and outermost regions, and were coordinators or partners in relevant widening or wider actions under Horizon 2020 or Horizon Europe. So the entry point are so-called key exploitable results, or CARES, as we call it. So together with your organization's capacity building needs. So the CARES can be, that might be a technology, a method, solution, or even a policy recommendation, anything with credible potential for exploitation and dissemination. Here you also see that the CARES might be direct or indirect. And what does it mean? So basically, what does it means that direct care is a result that is directly generated within the widening or this wider project itself. For example, a new technology, data set, prototype, a method, any outcomes in teaming, era related projects, twinning, and so on. I will speak about it a little bit later on. And there are so-called indirect key exploitable results. So an indirect care is still eligible when it is clearly connected to the widening project in the same thematic domain, even if it was not produced strictly inside the project's funded research activities. So this matters because in many widening actions, research components may be limited, like it is in twinning. There is only 20% of budget for this research component. So the practical takeaway for you is that you do not overfilter your results up front. If you are unsure whether a result is direct or indirect, whether it qualifies as a care, submit it, and we will verify with you during the initial expert meeting. And also remember, this is for the whole organization. So research teams, RMA, tech transfer, impact communication, specialist management can also be involved. And the actions that are eligible. So the eligibility is linked directly to this widening and widerA actions, and these are the formal entry point to the widerAdvance facility. So as you can see, these are ERA chairs, ERA talent, excellence hubs, European Excellence Initiative, HOPON facility, pathways to synergies, teaming for excellence, twinning for Western Balkans, and cost innovation actions are also eligible. So if your organization was a coordinator or partner in one of those actions, and you are based in widening countries or outermost regions, you are formally entitled to apply. And what are you applying for? We have a wide portfolio of various services. So coaching and expert advice match to the maturity and type of your key exploitable results. So the key components here in our one-stop shop for valorization services are Dissemination Exploitation Academy to improve maturity of selected cares through coaching and workshops, and supporting progress in TRL and adoption readiness level. IP support, specialized coaching around intangible assets and IP strategy, standardization support for mature results close to deployment that require standardization steps. We're also preparing for much third-party collaboration, so pitching support, partner targeting and matching approaches to engage industry, public sector users, or policymakers. There are also awareness and training webinars like this one today, but there is also series only for beneficiaries of our services. There are also synergies and top-up funding coaching, so guidance on how to leverage another instruments, often regional and structural funding, so you could advance results towards uptake or market readiness. We also have study visits. The one was actually last month in Prague. So the next one will be probably this year. So I encourage you to apply and to be in touch with us and to follow our website for more information. And basically, what a single organization will receive while applying for widerAdvance facility. First of all, you will receive an individual plan. So this is an individual service delivery plan and expert guidance on how to disseminate and exploit your results effectively. The other one is this practical direction of the follow-up funding, so the programs to consider and how to approach them. So what I mentioned is RDF, RRF, ESF, etc. Then strengthened in-house capacity, because people across the organizations are trained, not only research teams, so also those research management, administration that supports you. So all those people can benefit from applying to us. And links with industry VCs investors. So this is to build sustainable links with the industry and other innovation stakeholders. And of course, increase your visibility through dissemination and success story communication. So at the end, after you successfully finish our services, you use them, we can show it, promote it, and raise your visibility. So I believe this is also beneficial for your organization. What are our targets? They are quite ambitious, as you can see. So yes, we have 100 plus organizations supported from widening countries and outermost regions. Then improved maturity of 750 CARES linked to widening actions directly or indirectly. Strengthen dissemination and exploitation capacities up to 1,000 individuals, so those researchers and RMAs. And of course, increase the recognition of widening beneficiaries in relevant countries at national and regional level. So as you can see, a lot going on. The project is ambitious but measurable. So I once again encourage you to apply, and basically how to how to do it. So participation is quite easy and straightforward. So we have it through one single open call. So sorry, applications can be submitted at any time via online form on our website. So as you can see, the next there are rounds of cutoffs every 3 months. We planned at least 20 cutoffs days. The closest one is at the end of April right now. So the application is straightforward. You provide your organizational details, reference to your eligible widening and widerA projects, and list of your key exploitable results. Importantly, each organization can submit multiple key exploitable results and involve both research teams and RMAs. So after the cutoff, we check the formal eligibility. Those eligible applications are ranked, and we hold an initial expert meeting to discuss your key exploitable results in detail. So based on this discussion, on this meeting, we create a tailored service delivery plan. So selecting the most relevant services for your maturity level, your needs for the specific key exploitable results that were chosen. So next cutoff 30 April 2026, organizations have a clear upcoming opportunity to enter the process. So I encourage you to do it and do not wait until very last moment. In parallel to individual services, we run regular capacity building webinars and publish updates through our channels. So please follow our social media website to stay informed about the upcoming topics and registration details. We also will organize on-site matchmaking events across widening countries and outermost regions, connecting beneficiaries with relevant innovation stakeholders. So, and as I said earlier, we plan study visits to selected centers of excellence to share best practices and show how effective valorization ecosystem work in practice, especially that might be especially useful for research managers and management, but not only. So to conclude, thank you for your attention. Again, I strongly encourage you to apply. This is a very simple process. The support is tailored to your organization and results. You can find more details and application form on our website. In case of any question, you can always reach us via email that you can see right now on your screen. So right now, I would like to pass the floor to the next speaker. So thank you very much for your attention.
There's one question. if you can
Yes.
answer that. The question is, am I correct? The university which hosts an EU project can apply. Who is eligible in the university to attend? Participants of the EU project or other teams can also be involved. And there's
Uh,
another question also, can more partners from one project apply?
yes, more partners from one project can apply. If there are also partners or coordinators, so we are eligible. And let me check the other question. Mm, university which hosts a EU project can apply. Yes, basically the it's all about the project you have. So as I mentioned, it's widening or widera under Horizon Europe or Horizon 2020, and key exploitable results, direct or indirect, related to the actions I mentioned. And when it comes to this key exploitable results, both are welcome researchers responsible for it, but also research managers and all people involved in the action.
Right, thank you very much. I
Thank you.
think we answered these two questions. If any other, of course, you are more than welcome to send an email, of course, to the email address that Marika showed. And I think, yes, let's give the floor to Valeria, who
Yes.
will be introducing, the next
Yes,
steps.
thank you. I will share my screen. So you should be able to see it. Let me
Oh, good.
open it. Yes, okay. Sorry, the visualization changed. Okay, so thank you for the introduction on the project. And so in this session, we will be talking about dissemination strategies and the connection to stakeholder engagement. Okay. Just a short introduction about myself. My name is Valeria, and I work as a communication and project manager at APRE, which is the agency for the promotion of European research. We are based in Rome. We are a no-profit organization, and we have two departments. One is hosting the Italian NCPs for the Horizon Europe program, and the other one is working on specific projects. It's the projects department. And as I said, I work mostly there as a project manager and communication manager. During this session, what I want to show you, and please drop the questions in the chat. I think, sorry, in the Q&A section, and I will answer them later. So I want to discuss what is dissemination, and most importantly, the difference between dissemination and communication, since this is a theme that sometimes is a bit confusing. Understanding the triple and quadruple and quintuple helix models and why they are important for stakeholder engagement. Talk about the prioritization of stakeholders. And then some techniques or tools that we can use to engage stakeholders. And finally, show some best practices from widening countries in terms of dissemination and stakeholder engagement. So first of all, what is dissemination is the first question, and it's the basics to start from for this webinar. And dissemination is the disclosure of project results with the final goal of the uptake and their use by stakeholders and end users. So it's very important that we put the stress that we want to find stakeholders and end users. Otherwise, we kind of confuse it with communication, which is just giving visibility to the results. The goal of dissemination, as I wrote here, is not visibility, but is the use of these results by people who can implement them and also further exploit them. And this is a key concept that, as I said, sometimes is a bit confused when we report and implement these activities. So we want to have a strategy for dissemination that can help us create a plan that is result-oriented and addresses specific stakeholders for their use. So just to sum up, dissemination ensures that the project results reach the stakeholders and users that will further apply them and will support the uptake, the replication, and the development of our project results. Just a small, let's say, concept of what we are talking about when we talk about stakeholders. That is the classification using the triple, quadruple, and quintuple helix. So I am sure that you are probably familiar with this concept or with this classification, but in general, the triple helix is the one that involves academia, the industry, and the government. The quadruple helix as the addition of civic society and media, and the quintuple helix actors from the environment and sustainability dimension. So this classification helps us to give us a structured framework to work with and to understand how we can map and engage these stakeholders for our activities, especially connected to dissemination. Because, as I said before, the stakeholders that we want to map and engage are the ones that we want also to disseminate our results to. So using this division can help us create a more precise map, and also makes our job easier in understanding how to disseminate our results. And of course, this also in the overall, let's say, implementation of our project, this is a measure to maximize the impact, which is a requirement for Horizon Europe project. So it is very important to map out and to implement effective dissemination measures. So here we have let's say, the model for the triple helix. As I said, we have the academia sector, the industry, and the government. And I would jump just because we have some time and I have a lot of slides. So I will jump just when to involve them, because I think is more relevant for the dissemination strategy. So the triple helix is beneficial to involve when we want to develop and validate our solution and our technologies, and also for exploitation, commercialization, which mostly is connected to exploitation, and for policy uptake for the government part. Regarding the quadruple helix, as I said, we add the civic society, which usually is our representatives from citizens association, NGOs, media, cultural actors, and we want to involve them when we want to have a validation through co-design and co-creation of solutions with some end users, and have a more in-depth dissemination and engagement activities. So it's a kind of bottom-up validation of results. And the quintuple helix, as I said, it's the incorporation of environmental and sustainability actors. So, for example, ecological stakeholders, sustainability actors, environmental systems. And of course, these specific actors are connected to sustainable development and more the environment side. So it makes sense to involve them when we have, for example, planning and policy alignment for sustainability objectives, environmental solutions, assessment of the environmental impacts and sustainability outcomes, and in general, sustainable innovation connected to this sector. Otherwise, if we are not really, our project is not really working on this, then we are not really, it's not a primary target group to involve, so it makes sense to focus our dissemination effort on other actors. So to map stakeholders, one method that is very common and is also very effective in finding, as I said, prioritization method is the prioritization matrix, which is a tool that we use to identify and prioritize stakeholders based on two, let's say, categories: the level of interest and the level of influence in relation to our outcomes and the things that we want to disseminate, the results that we want to disseminate. And basically, we do a very simple 2x2 matrix to map out these groups. And it's very useful to understand how much effort we can plan for dissemination for a specific group. So it helps us create a list of groups to involve and carry out these activities. So first of all, we want to identify the stakeholders that we are trying to involve, assess the influence and the interest. So by these two categories, try to understand how we can map them in this system, create the matrix, and then based on the matrix, create the engagement strategies and the dissemination strategies. Here I put an example because maybe it seems a bit abstract, but seeing the table, it makes more sense. So for example, if we have a group that is high interest and high influence, then they are our key players because they are the people that we really want to involve and we really want to disseminate our results to. They can implement them, they can further uptake them, and so they are our priority. If they have high influence but low interest, then we can keep them satisfied, meaning we can foresee some activities for them, but since they show low interest, then our effort will not go completely there. If we have low influence but high interest, then we can keep informed these groups. So plan some activities to let them know what is happening, but still there our efforts. If they cannot further exploit these results or they cannot be engaged completely, then our efforts also goes a bit down towards them. And if there is a low interest and low influence, then at this point we can plan a minimal effort for engaging or disseminating to these groups. And here I put an example, like if we have policymakers and regulatory authorities that are our key players, then for example, as an opposite, we have the general public. But this is let's say, an example, so it's not let's say fixed map, but it can be helpful to understand how to move and how to plan this matrix. And how it supports dissemination. So as I said before, it helps identify priority target groups, and it helps us create a targeted dissemination strategy. So we can clearly understand who are the groups that we really want to involve and who are the groups that are that can be involved, but just let's say in a minimal effort, and in this allocate resources accordingly, and focus the efforts where it makes more sense to have them. And here I put some example of activities that we can plan for these groups. So, for example, for the key players, then we want to have direct engagement. So also collecting feedback and keep them engaged actively. While for low interest, for the minimal effort, let's let's say, groups would be just general communication activities. So we give them updates on through the website, social media, and so on. But you can see that from creating direct engagement, like I don't know, a co-creation group or a focus group, and just having a few social media posts, there is a clear difference in terms of effort, and so it makes sense to plan a higher effort where higher results can be obtained. So now we will see in a few steps how to build a dissemination strategy, which is based on the stakeholder matrix. So the first step, as you can see here, is defining the objectives. Then we find the target audience that actually we already found with the stakeholder matrix. And then we craft the messages, select the channels, and finally we plan a timing and roadmap. So the first step, define the objectives. So what do I want to achieve with my strategy, with the dissemination of my results? For example, I want to increase a policy uptake that is based on a policy brief for my project, stimulate collaboration with industry, increase academic citation, uptake and replication in widening countries. All of this should be the base, not all of this, but based on our project, this should be the basics to start building the strategy. To define the objectives, I put it here as a reminder, but I'm sure most of us are familiar with SMART objectives, so specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So these are just some specifics to help us draft a dissemination strategy that is not only effective but also credible, because it's an important point to consider that we cannot promise some objectives that are too broad. Otherwise, if we don't reach them, then there is a problem in compliance. So for the definition of the target audience, we can segment it with the Helix category. We can divide by geographical area that we want to reach, or the maturity level of the stakeholders. So our target audience is early adopters, or mainstream, or a technical audience, and so on. Just yes, a reminder to use the matrix as a tool that can help you understand better how to divide this audience. And finally, a note that sometimes I see it as a bit of a critical point, because there is a bit of a tendency of trying to involve very broad groups, but this makes it more difficult, because one of the key points of a dissemination strategy is being tailored to the group that we are trying to reach. So if in our strategy we say that we want to reach from policymakers to the general public at the same level, then it becomes a huge problem, because we have to create several targeted activities for each group, and this can be a bit difficult in terms of resources, in terms of effort, and on time. So one suggestion would be to try to define the target audience as specific as possible, and also as relevant for our results. Then the third step is to craft key messages. And this is important because we want to tailor our results or the dissemination of our results to the target audience and to the other factors that we will talk about. So we cannot have here as well too broad of messages, otherwise they won't be adapted to the people we are trying to reach to. and to craft this dissemination message that is effective and that is tailored, it can be helpful to try to identify the problem relevance. So why I am sharing these results with you, or this dissemination message with you. Try to highlight the benefit of applying further, implementing further this result for this particular stakeholder group, and then a call to action that usually is is very used more in communication, but it is an invite to do something to a specific group. For example, when I say subscribe to our newsletter, that's the call to action, but this should be applied as well to dissemination messages tailored to the value and the benefits that I am trying to highlight. And then below you see that it is very important to adapt messages to the format, the tone of voice, and the technical depth of the messages. So what does it mean? It means that each group has different needs and challenges and can get different benefits in relation to results. And it's always very important to consider them and to create crafted specific messages. So we cannot just create one message and hope that it will be relevant for groups like policymakers or industry or research and academia. The needs of the people who are listening to us are different. So if we want to ensure that dissemination is effective and actionable, we have to take all of these factors into consideration. Otherwise, it's just an informative message, and then stakeholder engagement will be way more difficult than having a tailored message. The fourth step is the selection of channels. So the channel is and the tools that we are going to use are basically where do I want to publish, or what type of instrument will I be using to share and disseminate my results. And of course, these as well are tailored to the stakeholder group that we want to engage. So when selecting them, we want to make sure that the stakeholder will receive this information in a relevant, timely, and accessible manner. Yes. For example, here they are based on the matrix that I showed you before for these stakeholder groups. For example, for the most, let's say, relevant group for our key players, as I said before, direct engagement through workshop, policy briefs, and meetings, then are the most appropriate channel, because we don't want only to inform them or share with them something. We also want to get feedback and make sure that there is the understanding of how the result can be further exploited, while other tools and channels can be some reports, targeted briefing, or for a, let's say, lower level, then newsletter, webinars, and some fact sheets, for example. While for the lowest level, it's always something that it's a bit more low effort, like website updates and social media posts. Here I put just some examples of channels and tools that we can use. So for the digital world, let's say the website, the newsletter, social media, and the webinars. For in-person, let's say, meetings, workshops, conferences, and policy roundtables. And finally, for collaborative efforts, which I would use for the key players mostly, living labs, co-creation sessions, and advisory boards. So it also allows us to build a community and build engagement through direct interaction and also back and forth, while the other tools and channels are a bit more, let's say, one-way type of dissemination. It's important for the fifth step to develop a timing and a roadmap. Of course, it means that we don't want to engage stakeholders during the wrong phase of our project. For example, when we just started and our result is not clear, then sometimes this can be confusing for stakeholders. So we want to make sure that they are engaged at the right time, and that we also want to make sure that our dissemination plan is ready when it needs to be implemented. So of course it needs to be validated and created before that. Here some phases to consider that are mostly the most common ones when we want to develop a timeline are the pre-launch, so the development of our dissemination strategy midterm, in which maybe we can start engaging the stakeholders, the results phase. So when our results are ready, then we can disseminate them, and then there is more activity in this sense. And finally, the post-project sustainability that is more connected to the exploitation of these results after the project end. Some stakeholder engagement strategies connected to that we can use for dissemination. We can choose the engagement level, which is connected to what I was telling you about earlier, and to the stakeholder group and level that we want to choose. So from inform to wanting to involve as well and consult. And then the highest level are collaborate and co-create, in which, as I said, we have the building of an active community and a very high engagement level, while inform is the lowest one that is not even supposed sometimes to get an answer. It's just an information. And then the mid-level is involvement and consultations, in which at least there is some feedback. But we can choose the engagement level based on the type of stakeholders that we want to reach. And here there is another, let's say, matrix that can be useful. So based on the stakeholder type, the level and the use case, and the engagement tools and activities that we can choose to involve them. And these are, let's say, based on most general examples or most common, let's say, activities and most common situations that we can find ourselves in. But I would always suggest to create this from zero, and also to really try to understand the target groups that we want to involve and their particular situation, because this also can change from geographical context, and it can change from type of stakeholders. So it is useful to have these general guidelines to follow, but a specific context analysis, I would say, is always fundamental to make sure that really our dissemination and engagement strategy is really relevant and coherent to our efforts and to what we are doing. So now I can show you some best practices of engagement practices for dissemination, specific from widening countries. So just let's say a small introduction on why dissemination in widening countries. Of course, we give for granted that the dissemination, as I said before, is mandatory in EU Horizon Europe projects. So this would be the short answer, but we can go a bit in depth on the reasons that we want to find, and also that can be helpful to create a targeted dissemination strategy in widening countries. So the first point is on strengthening research and innovation ecosystems. So this aspect is more on capacity building for research organizations and SMEs, and encourages the adoption of best practices, methodologies, and technologies. The second aspect is related to growth and competitiveness. So trying to reduce the innovation gaps between widening countries and, let's say, other regions of Europe, and at the same time also to encourage local stakeholders, regional stakeholders, to exploit the project results with the goal of boosting the impact both on the economic and the social side. The third aspect is connected to cross-border collaboration, so the creation, development of opportunities for partnership in the regions across various sectors, across let's say various types of stakeholders, and then foster knowledge exchange, co-creation, and networking opportunities. And then the fourth aspect is to support policy and societal impact, so to contribute to evidence-based recommendation for local and regional policymakers, and engage civic society and local communities to use and benefit from project outcomes. And finally, to enhance long-term uptake and sustainability, so make sure that our project results continue to be used and continue to be exploited after the project ends, and also from that they can benefit local innovation ecosystems. So the idea, just to sum up, is also to always take into consideration the geographical context of the regions that we find ourselves in, because when we want to try to find let's say broader recommendations for this type of activities, we try to, I mean, it is normal to generalize a little bit and try to find common grounds, but the local aspect is always very influential in the implementation of the activities, so it must be also always considered. So the first best practice is the strong regional ecosystem integration, and this is connected to the problem of fragmented innovation ecosystems that sometimes is a reality in some widening countries, and the goal is to ensure that local actors are connected with regional stakeholders to strengthen knowledge exchange and adoption of results. The key actions for this best practice are the mapping and engagement of regional stakeholders, and as you can see here, they are from different sectors, so academia, industry, and public authorities, so government, and these stakeholders are engaged through platform, local hubs, and innovation clusters to foster co-creation mostly, and encourage the creation of other projects and co-creation initiatives. So the benefits of this type of activities are the strengthening of local innovation capacity and collaboration, and the uptake of results by regional actors, and also to give additional visibility to project results, and give also visibility to EU funding as a mean of developing further results. So here I put just some let's say more practical application of this best practice that can be consortium of universities with small medium enterprises and public authorities, so they can pilot some solutions at local scale. So basically we create a local hub that will apply the solution and then can further work on these results. So the second best practice is the policy-driven dissemination. So of course this this result is targeted towards policy, as you can understand from the title, and the goal is to align regional and national policy priorities to maximize the uptake. And the relevance of these priorities, and it's a case of targeted dissemination. So we make sure that these results reach the right stakeholders at the right time, and that are capable to actually apply them. The key actions are the mapping of policymakers and regulatory authorities. So we want to understand from the start who are these policymakers who can support us in this policy uptake, and then the creation of policy brief, recommendation, and evidence-based reports that are aligned with their local strategies, and then that can give them a clear implementation pathway, for example, for these results. And then the organization of let's say some events like roundtables, consultations, or meetings that can be an occasion for further discussion on application of these results. So the benefits, of course, are the policy uptake of the results. So we have a really direct link with stakeholders who can apply our results, but also at the same time a regional alignment, let's say. So if we are working in different regions, then these policy priorities can be more aligned following our results, and then we can ensure long-term sustainability of innovation by obtaining this regulatory support. And then the example, so it's the development of these policy briefs and workshops, for example, for digital transformation strategies that can be then applied in local programs. So we want to bring together all of these actors to discuss how we can actually implement these results, transform them into policies, and also transform them into, for example, programs or other actions that can further apply them. And finally, as the third best practice, we have capacity building and internationalization. So the context for this application is of course, from the name, the development of research and innovation capacities, and connect them to international networks. This is done to ensure that skills, knowledge, and infrastructure are able to replicate, to implement and replicate the project results. So for capacity building, very common, let's say, actions are the organization of trainings, mentorings, mobility programs for various stakeholders. As you can see here, it can be done for researchers, but also from representatives from SMEs or innovation managers, and sometimes also for policymakers. And the another action is the promoted the participation in EU and international consortia, just always for capacity building through exchange of best practices or knowledge exchange, and finally promote the adoption of infrastructure and digital tools, so that can help us in further capacity building and in further internationalization and knowledge exchange. So the benefits, of course, are connected to capacity building. So the strengthening of capabilities, in particular for research and innovation of local actors, the integration of the results into European-wide research and infrastructure network and innovation, networks, and then finally the adoption and exploitation of results at different levels, can be regional or local. And an example, a more, let's say, concrete example can be the attending of capacity building workshops and international projects, where usually there is always a moment to build capacities of participants. And this is an effective measure to build knowledge in this field. The common success factors of all of these practices are connected to what we have been discussing so far. So the early stakeholder mapping that can help us understand our groups and who we will be talking to. The continuous engagement from the moment we decide that our dissemination strategy and our engagement strategy will be applied, then we need to be constant. So be clear in the intention and continuously try to find ways to engage stakeholders. In particular, another, let's say, common success factor was to also create a dissemination strategies that takes into account local languages, because in some particular context there is also a language barrier that is to be considered. Maybe not for example for research and academia or some other levels that are more used to speaking in English. But if our key player as a stakeholder group is civic society, then we also have to take into consideration that we need some type of translation. And then finally, there is the policy alignment first that needs to be done to correctly engage these stakeholders, especially, of course, for the government sector of the helix. And then finally, a clear exploitation pathway that is something that usually comes a bit later, because exploitation is preferred mostly to after the project or towards the end of the project. But we need to also match our dissemination activities to what we intend to do with the exploitation of results. I don't know if we have much time or I can go on if I'm late, but
No, you are all good. Yeah.
Okay. Just then to just summarize a bit the key takeaways of this short presentation. But first, that dissemination is targeted and results oriented. So, as I said, we can have guidelines and some targets, let's say, to respect, but reaching stakeholder is to correctly and effectively reach stakeholder is very important to consider the local context and the particular case, and also remember the difference from communication, general communication, which is something else. And then second key takeaway is that stakeholder prioritization is essential. So it is first of all for us and for our organization to properly plan effort, so that we don't let's say waste time in trying to find some engagement from groups that are not relevant for our results. And then And this way we can apply dissemination tools effectively. Then the third point is that timing matters. So we have to have a clear plan in terms of timing and to make sure that we have the time to properly plan the activities, to properly reach out to the groups that we are looking for, and have in mind clearly the dissemination phases that can help us maximize the project impact. Connected to that is also the fourth point. So we should use tools and channels that are let's say, adequate for the groups that we are trying to reach. Understand their needs, understand the barriers that they face, and then adapt the tools and channels to that. So, for example, not to rely completely on digital channels if we find out from our, for example, from our stakeholder map that our group prefers, has a preference on in-person meetings. So these are some strategies to apply to really maximize our effort in dissemination. And then just the best practices that let's say I presented earlier. So these are just some examples of things that work. But as I said before, really try to understand the context that you are trying to engage and that you are trying to disseminate to. And finally, that impact is maximized when stakeholders are engaged strategically. So sometimes a mistake can happen if, for example, we don't take into account stakeholders' fatigue. So we just bombard them with activities and requests from different sides, and after a while, people are disengaged from this. So we should try to fine tune the engagement strategy and the dissemination strategy in order to also request from them a level of activities and effort that is matched with what we are trying to ask, and this is very important to consider. If you have any questions, I think you can write in the Q&A section, and I will. And I can answer, or yeah, you can also do it later and I can answer during the break or so on. Yes, Alicia?
Congratulations. Oh.
Something is happening with the mic. Oh. Okay. I will stop sharing, so.
Yeah, I think everyone should be encouraged. If you want to ask questions, put those into the Q&A for sure.
Yes.
I think the participants may deserve. Alicia, yeah, you back?
I think it's all. We had two micros at the same time. First, I wanted to congratulate you for the talk. And I was very interested in the part referring to widening countries, because when we use properly the triple, quadruple, helix, and so on, we can increase the number of industrial and economic lines and diversify economy. Now, what would you recommend how to approach stakeholders, I mean companies, stakeholders, which are used to move in, let's say, other business areas, related business areas, so that they can move to expand their commercial lines and introduce them in the region. Would you approach them, for instance, with a report or a newsletters or even a video? Or perhaps contact first with the local authorities, the government, so that there is an indirect approach through them?
I think since from your question, I guess that is a very important, is a key player group for you to engage. So I would engage them directly, and it depends also from the KPI that we have. So how many we need to engage. But I think that let's say the value proposition of dissemination to industry is always to highlight the economic benefit that they get. So as you said, they can maybe open new lines of commercialization in other countries. They can get some, let's say, innovation for their own sector by participating and so on. So this would be, I think, since it seems like a very relevant group, then I would do targeted emails and then ask for meetings in which you can also ask for feedback. So there is an engagement that is based a bit more on participation, and it also feels like they are being involved and they are part of this application of solutions and not only someone who receives it. So that if we open these two lines of two-way, communication, then usually stakeholders are more encouraged to participate because it's key that you also show that you are listening and not only giving and saying, okay, this is what we did. If you want to apply, you can do it. But for example, for this type of relation that you are trying to establish is not ideal. It's more effective to try to establish a direct link and highlight really the benefits of this.
Congratulations for the talk and thank you for the explanation. Very good.
I can see that there is a question. So engagement usually means time, effort for the QH partner. If they are not paid partners, how we can facilitate their engagement? And this is a very good question. And this is also something that that is really a key point in dissemination and in general in stakeholder engagement. So, of course, having not the possibility most of the time to dedicate some budget for this, it is a barrier to this. But there are also other ways to try to involve them or try to make, let's say, make them feel important, let's say, but in a way that like if you, as I said before, establish this two-way of communication and make them feel part of the solution and actually make them part of the solution, and in a sense, take ownership of what is happening. So you are not just listening to me talk about this, I don't know, innovative solution that I found, but also I ask for your feedback, and then you see how I implemented your feedback, if it's relevant, of course. Then it's also something that is encouraging, and then of course it depends from the groups, but for in general for policymakers and the industry, also the networking is a huge part. So you can, let's say, stress that, I don't know, we have an in-person event, you can come and then you can meet people who can be relevant in your, let's say, in your research, in your own research or in your own activities. So the idea is always to find benefits that are not, let's say, monetary in this way, but that can be helpful. And this can be done mainly through the stakeholder mapping, because if you start to map and understand each group, and by each group, I don't mean only, for example, industry, but I don't know, industry representatives from one specific sector. So industry representative from the photovoltaic system, then industry representative from the photovoltaic system in Spain. And then you have, every time you add a layer and every time you understand more about what they need. And this makes it a bit easier to also involve them, because you kind of get the idea that there are some, for example, they are interested particularly in some results, and then it's easier to involve them, even if you don't if you don't if you cannot offer anything, let's say, monetary. And this is also related to this targeting of the message that I was talking about, because it's what we want to achieve. This understanding of the group helps us involving them.
All right, thank you very much. Well, I should be starting in 2 minutes. That's not gonna happen. Let's take a short break. So I don't know if you need any kind of course, activity to complete. Let's take 10 minutes, okay? And then we will meet back at 3:25, and then we will go with the practical examples. And you have to practice, so just make sure that you have your phone with you, because we will use the Mentimeter. Okay, so see you in 10 minutes. Yep. All right. So then let's see some of the practical elements. Let me share the screen. All right. Then here you will see the instructions for the Mentimeter itself. So you have to go with your phone to menti.com and enter the code 66792763, or you can use the QR code, of course, with your phone, and it will automatically put you into the actual Mentimeter, whichever seems to be easier. So we have 18 people. I will be waiting for at least 15 to join. And 12. Anyone may have issues with joining? Yeah, of course, not everyone has to join. I was just thinking that around 15 would be the good ratio. But then I think if 14 of you already joined, then very good. Then we will be playing with you, let's say. We start with the basics, all right? So also, as Valeria explained, of course, the differences between communication and dissemination. Also, of course, the European Commission is having these beautiful fact sheets also, of course, and charts and presentations where you can see, of course, for whom, how exactly, when, and why, of course, communication, dissemination, and exploitation would be happening. But I want to practice a little bit with you. So I will be asking you a question, and you have to say if it's communication, dissemination, or exploitation activity. Let's see the first one. A researcher publishes a paper in a peer-reviewed journal on findings from the project. Which activity is this? Yeah, on your phone, you have to select one of these. There's a little bit of debate between dissemination and communication, I see. But the dissemination is higher. And indeed, you're right, it is a dissemination activity because Also, as Valeria mentioned, it is targeted, it is result-oriented. So if a scientific article is published in a journal, for the scientific community to understand, of course, let's say the knowledge gap on this and that, or the connections in between this and that, then definitely, of course, you are trying to disseminate, of course, the results, the specific knowledge and the data that you created in the project for the scientific community to be used for further research, of course, and education. So that would be dissemination. You always have the scope with the dissemination to do exploitation. So you always have in mind also, as Valeria showed you with the objectives, what exactly the scientific community will do, of course, with that scientific article. Another example, a press release is issued to announce the launch of the project and its goals to the media. Oh yeah, I see. This is a lot easier for everyone. That's for sure. Absolutely. This is a standard communication activity that we do, of course, at the launch of the project and afterwards, of course, at certain milestones as well, potentially, if you want to inform the media about the benefits that this project is bringing to the society. Very good. So that's communication. Let's see this one. A municipality uses the project's guidelines to update its local environmental policy. Most of you is selecting exploitation, which is correct. The keyword here is uses. So the municipality is using a specific result to do something with it. In this case, updating its specific policies. So that would be exploitation, use of the results. Organizing a school visit to explain the need for selective waste collection. This is a trickier one. Why do you organize the school visit? Because you want to explain to the kids how important it is to do selective waste collection. Where is the result here? Nowhere. So the correct answer would be communication. Okay, because here you are trying, of course, then to do kind of a general activity. That will be, of course, also connected to science education, which is actually super useful to do in all of these projects. And that could be also an interesting exploitation route if you do something with it. But in general, of course, you need to show a specific result to a specific target audience if you want to do dissemination. How about this one? A policy brief summarizing project recommendations is sent to relevant EU decision makers. Okay, nice percentage. It is dissemination. Why it is not exploitation? Because the exploitation would be how the EU decision makers are using the policy brief and the recommendations in it. So if the recommendations are used in a specific working group within the EU decision-making body to propose a new, I don't know, strategy that should be implemented on a European level, now that would be exploitation. If the policy brief is just given to them to do something with it, that would be the dissemination part. A PhD student uses a scientific paper that was published by the project in their research. Again, very good ratio for the good answer. It is exploitation, right? Again, the keyword is using. The PhD student is using a scientific paper. Yes, it was published within the project itself indeed, but it is used, of course, for the research that the PhD student is doing. All right, and then a video is posted on the project's social media to explain how the technology works in simple terms. Okay, maybe this was too easy, right? Yes, communication, absolutely. Very good. All of you got it. A company in the consortium integrates the project's technology into a new commercial product. Perfect. We got there. Very good. Now you fully understand the difference between dissemination, communication, and exploitation. Super. Okay, we covered the basics. What is the first step to start drafting your PDR? The plan for exploiting and communicating the project results. And you perfectly remember, right, what Valeria was telling you, that the first step is putting together the objectives. But actually, when she put together those objectives, she also had already the target groups and the stakeholder mapping done. That is interesting that for me, actually, the first thing is to understand, of course, who we target with what kind of results. And then we are able to tell the objectives for the strategy itself. Because then we know that, okay, for the dissemination, the specific objective is that this policy brief has to go to the local government, because we will be putting, of course, recommendations for them to set up some kind of a new urban planning methodology for the district heating, let's say. Then we know, of course, what is exactly the objective. But in general, if we just say, of course, we want to raise the awareness, very good. We want to disseminate the project results, very good. But if you want to be specific, then you need to understand, of course, what kind of results you have and what kind of target groups you have. And afterwards, yes, you can set the objectives. How about this one? Which one of these is not an element of a communication and dissemination strategy? Okay, everyone seems to know that audience mapping and key messages is part of the communication dissemination strategy. Super. Then we have data management plan and we have budget and resources. Now, interestingly, you need to understand the resources that you have and the budget that you can use in order to specify actually your communication dissemination strategy and actions that you can do. So it is the data management itself that is not part of the strategy. All right, so this is how more or less, of course, the strategy is put together, and you can use this infographic and you can use, of course, the infographic also that Valeria showed you. Both of you will get to you to the same kind of time. We are trying now a little bit go through with a specific example. So you have to do now your own dissemination strategy through a specific example with a twinning project. So let's see then how to, of course, understand what kind of results we have, what kind of audience we target, how to put together the objectives, what tools and channels to select, what KPIs potentially to put for that. And then, of course, we need to do the activities themselves. All right, so this is the example that we were using. The organization name is Danube Civic Innovation Lab. This organization doesn't exist, no worries. So don't look for it, but it would be cool to have something like that. It is a public research performing organization. They are dealing also with applied social science, and they also have a digital innovation unit. They are based in Hungary, so one of the widening countries, and they are trying to solve or overcome this challenge. Municipalities in the Danube region struggle to translate citizen input into implementable climate resilience measures. Participation is often ad hoc, data is fragmented, and evidence rarely reaches the policy decisions. So they want to come up, of course, with something that would be helping to gather the citizen input, translate it of course, into specific measures, and then, of course, see what could be the impact out of that. The project, which is again not existing, is a twinning. It's called Twin for Resilience. It's a 3-year project, and the thematic domain will be the climate adaptation and social innovation. The beneficiary organization will improve its ability to design, to test, to refine, and transfer such digital and other participatory tools, which will be then, of course, solving this challenge. So, right, we will kind of create an excellent research institution in this area from the Danube Civic Innovation Lab. Now, the results that we have, we develop in this project the Civic Heat Map Toolkit, which is a reusable toolkit, which is helping you to put together the co-design and trying also to set up what kind of data you have to collect and how. Then there will be a policy to action brief for the Danube municipalities, which is a set of short policy briefs, who should be doing what kind of also participatory approaches. Then there's this catalog, which is dealing with flood. Then there will be, of course, then the toolkit that is potentially dealing with heat waves and specific issues. And it is trying to put together then 12 different low-cost, fast-to-deploy neighborhood interventions. So again, what kind of interventions the municipalities should be then taking. And then impact and stakeholder monitoring framework, of course, is kind of an internal framework that the municipalities could be putting together. And there will be a dashboard also to track the stakeholder engagement, the uptake, and the specific outcomes. So that is this fake project that we are dealing with. And then just to make sure that we understand, of course, this is a twinning project, right? So actually the funding doesn't go to develop a toolkit and 12 specific interventions and so on, but it is about the organization's ability to design and transfer these solutions, also the toolkit, also the intervention, with, of course, improving the methodological capacity to design and validate participated rules, and also, of course, with training and competence building into the SSH-based climate research. So this specific organization will increase the capacities with the help from other excellent research institutions to become the reference point in the Danube region for municipalities, for cities, of course, to do these kind of activities in the future. But we still have, of course, these results, and we are trying to target, of course, let's take now not the triple, not the quintuple, but then the kind of the standard quadruple helix, let's say, as a starting point. We will try, of course, to create innovation, focus on social sciences, and of course, we will consider these 4 helixes: policy, science, industry, and society. So the question is, if we focus on the Civic Heat Map Toolkit, a reusable co-design and data toolkit, it will be interesting for whom exactly? Within the quadruple helixes, right, we identified a few specific types of institutions who this result is for. You can select more of these, not just one. Okay, so your solution shows that municipal councils and city climate officers would be the first target group. Second would be the urban planning consultancies, and more or less the same kind of votes were given to the ministries, SMEs, and then the research infrastructures data labs. So let's see the correct answer. most of you actually selected the correct ones. So who will be using the toolkit, of course, who will be interested in using the toolkit afterwards? Those ones, of course, who will have as a job to deal with potential heat waves, right, within the municipalities within the Danube region. So whose job that is, of course, to deal with that? It's normally, of course, those urban planning consultancies who are offering also specific services to municipalities, but also municipal councils and city climate officers. The others, of course, may be benefiting from, of course, this result, but it's not necessarily true that they will be using it directly. And of course, we have to highlight also, as Valeria was explaining, of course, who will be, of course, the most highly interested in these results. Now, the question is also why, right? Because that will be giving us specific also objective related issues. Because what is our objective, of course, to fulfill the needs, of course, these target groups. So why do city councils need a toolkit? Because they, let's say, want to represent the opinion of the citizens. They need fast, inclusive planning methods for heat waves or floods, or they need to report on their inclusive planning to the national authorities. So which one would be the most important need for the cities? Now, most of you is sure that it would be about the fast inclusive planning methods for the heat waves and the floods, which is true. If you selected the want to represent the opinion of their citizens, I suppose it's also true as well, right? I mean, it's of course, it's a vision and a mission for any of the municipalities whose elected officials, of course, should do this. But again, that's not the most important need why potentially you would be having, of course, this specific toolkit given to their hands. Okay, who use it? That would be kind of a different approach. And then the fact that they have to report to someone else, of course, to the national authorities, that is also true. In many cases, that's an important need, of course, and the purpose. But again, for that, I would probably try to put together some kind of another result for these municipalities and cities, and not necessarily, of course, the specific toolkit. But again, of course, we need to understand our target groups. We need to understand the needs. So when we do the target group assessment and needs assessment, we will be 100% sure that we are coming up with the results that they will really fulfill their needs. And then we can come up, of course, with the specific objectives and then the activities that we need to do. Now, if we continue then, of course, because we need tools and channels, of course, how do we reach out to municipalities, local governments, and city councils? What would be the most effective way to do that? Oh, sorry for the typo. I see now that associations was written. Sorry, associations were supposed to be written. Sorry. Okay, so indeed, social media and press are general kind of communication channels, but if we definitely want to show the toolkit to the municipalities, local governments, and city councils, we should use something more specific, such as the one-to-one meetings, the networks, and the associations. So again, also, we are not alone in the bubble. So of course, you can consider that there will be networks, associations, initiatives, projects, and so on who will be helping us to actually reach out to these organizations and then, of course, show them the specific toolkit. And indeed, just uploading something, of course, to Zenodo or any of the other platforms, it's not necessarily, of course, resulting in the use of the results. It's just making it more available. And then we need KPIs. So which one would be a good KPI? number of joint social media campaigns with city networks, number of toolkit downloads, number of city meetings with mayors and the urban planning departments. Which one would be good? You can select more. You may be afraid of social media, right? Because I said it's a communication action. All these three potentially could be good, but then the number of the toolkit. Can you say who downloaded your toolkit? You can show, of course, the interest in the toolkit with the number of the downloads. That's absolutely something, of course, that you can do. I think all three would be fully acceptable. Maybe at some point, of course, you have to try to figure out, of course, which one would be the most beneficial also. Dissemination and communication, of course, as well. KPIs we need to set in the proposal and, of course, show, of course, the reviewers as well in the running project, of course, how we progressed in reaching those KPIs and targets. So, of course, all of these would be fine. I would say that the best one would be the number of the city meetings with the mayors and the urban planning departments. Now, if we go to another result, impact and stakeholder monitoring framework. This would be the internal framework that could be used. And also there would be a dashboard to track the stakeholder engagement uptake and anything else, of course, in terms of the impact. Who is this good for? Regional development agency, universities, research groups, local media, community radios, or NGOs working with inclusion and vulnerable groups. Who would you target with this result? Again, more can be, of course, selected. What is this result? It's an impact monitoring framework. It's a methodology with a digital dashboard that is helping you to track the stakeholder engagement, so the participation of the citizens, and also then the uptake of the results. In terms of course, what is the main scope? To put together these regional municipality policies where we would be able to become more resilient in case of floods or heat waves. That's for the Danube region. That's the project is about. All right. Regional development agencies, universities, research groups, absolutely. These are the two main ones, very good. But then why? Why are the research teams interested in the impact monitoring framework? What is the need? We help research organizations to track, analyze, and improve stakeholder engagement, or they need to better evidencing the real impact, or they need to better understand the connection between stakeholder engagement and impact pathways. More of these can be selected again. And I'm sorry, you cannot speak, but again, use the Q&A section if you feel you have any specific question or you would like to discuss, of course, something more. All right. Yes. Yes, and yes, and yes. So all these three, of course, could be an interesting thing, of course, that we consider. And that could be also giving us, of course, some additional then activities. Okay, this is what they need. This is how we can fulfill then what we have to do, of course, to make it happen. How do you reach out to the research community? Workshop, webinars, social media press, scientific events, publications, one-to-one meetings. Which one is effective? Okay. Yeah. Someone is selecting all of these. Cool. Okay. I think I can think of ways how all of these, of course, would be a good way to reach out to the scientific community. That's not a problem, of course. I wouldn't say that the press is the most useful one, unless you have a super specialized scientific magazine where you want to publish your article. One-to-one meetings, again, maybe if you have, again, a scientific conference, you meet certain research groups, and then you organize afterwards potentially one-to-one meetings, of course, with them, because you think that you can actually set up a new collaboration project, or you could be having a joint lab, let's say. All of these, of course, are possibilities. In general, within this strategy, I think we would use the workshop, webinar, scientific events, publications, and social media. And LinkedIn, yes, that is the social media channel as well, like X and TikTok and Instagram and LinkedIn. These would be what is now Blue Sky, of course, that is kind of getting more and more used. And indeed, for the scientific community nowadays, LinkedIn is the most useful one. And then you have to do this for all of the results, for all of the different helixes, all of the key potential, of course, organizations who would be interested in your results. Because also this is a twinning, teaming, avatars, excellence hub, and so on. Actually, they generate a lot of policy-specific results. So don't be afraid, of course, with having, of course, the evidence-based policymaking and decision-making as your main exploitation route within the project. That could be also, of course, coming with a lot of key exploitable results. All of these kind of toolkits and policy briefs and recommendations, guidelines that you put together, all of these, of course, catalogs of best practices can be also used as an important element for the policy itself. The scientists, of course, will be interested in the data and in the methodologies, the frameworks, the models that you put together. Industry would be mostly interested, of course, in something super practical. Would it be then the catalog of best practices, but in this case also potentially the toolkit, because we are also dealing with urban planning consultancies. And of course, the society would want to internally use, of course, for their own benefit, then the best practices from the toolkit, from that specific catalog. Okay, so you have to kind of do this exercise for all of these and then try to figure out, of course, then what would be the key actions with the KPIs, of course, with the objectives for your strategy itself. Now, another element that potentially is interesting for everyone, I'm not sure if you know any of the tools that the European Commission is maintaining, and you can integrate these into your strategy, also in the proposal, and of course also during the implementation. Anyone knows about any of the EC tools that you can use freely? Besides, of course, the widening facility call and the services that it offers. Repository, Horizon Results Booster, very good. And the booster, basically the, I don't know, can I say big brother of the widening facility? I'm not sure if that's correct. Horizon Results Platform, very good. But Valeria, you are kind of cheating because you know all of these tools, but of course. Now, what are these? Horizon Magazine, something that could be used very much, of course, from the media and press perspective. Then the Horizon dashboard can give you interesting statistics. The booster, absolutely, of course, it could offer you these free of charge services in these three categories. The innovation radar is for specific, of course, innovations and the results, which are then analyzed and validated by the experts. And then on the innovation radar, you can use a lot of new specific results, which would be then or market ready, or let's say research ready, business ready. And then it would be then, of course, coming with a specific call to action. Okay, come and let's do business together. Come and let's invest into this solution because everything is perfectly free. Or come and let's do technological and research collaboration because we would need still, of course, to do something here. In better resolution, this is actually a fact sheet. And I don't have a chat. And because I'm a panelist, I cannot put anything into question and answer session. But I'm asking now the organizers who can then, of course, send you the slides also and the presentations. I will be downloading, of course, with all the results, the Mentimeter slides as well. And then I will be sending it to the organizers. You can also receive then the link actually to this specific communication of the European Commission. The upper part was actually the difference between communication, dissemination, exploitation, and this one is the list for the EC tools. CORD is, of course, the database of the previously funded projects in research and innovation. Then Open Research Europe platform is for the publications that will go through an open peer review and published as a preprint. And of course, there will be a great collection of success stories that you could be checking as well. The standardization booster has finished, but it is still available if you can budget for yourself for 2,000 euro, because then they can provide you with all of the basic services. The experts are still available for you. And that will be then, as you see, communication, dissemination, exploitation, specific tools also that you could be using with the running projects that you have. Now, which of these is a poor KPI for communication dissemination? Just the final 1-2 questions actually to finish. Just to make sure that we have a full picture about everything. Okay, which one would not be the best one? I would say that the number of policy briefs shared is not the best one, honestly speaking. Again, we need to understand how these policy briefs will be used. And then again, the number of presentations at the event may not be the best ever. We have a lot better, of course, KPIs potentially from the previous projects as well. So you can, of course, benchmark also within the dissemination, communication, exploitation plans on Cordis when you check the results of previously funded projects. There would be a little bit better, which can show the impact, because let's not forget one important thing. When anyone is coming to check the progress on your project, they will want to see, cool, you have the possibility to reach out to 5 million EU citizens. Cool. Okay. You have this press thing. You had the participation at these events and you made a presentation. The question is, what the hell was the next step afterwards? Was there any, of course, collaboration coming afterwards? Was there any feedback coming to you that they are interested in the policy brief? Was there, of course, any kind of other future, of course, activity that was based on what you did? Because it's not enough to potentially have a big number of website visitors. You need to see, of course, how the website visitors potentially are interested in engaging, in working together with you, in giving you feedback, in validating your results. So all of that, of course, then will be there. All right. If you want to measure engagement during a webinar, what's the most relevant indicator? Number of the registrations, number of the attendees staying until the end, or number of the invitations sent? And you know it very well. That was a tricky question, right? All of you who are now clicking, of course, you see that, yes, there is still an engagement within this webinar. Very good. Thank you so much. So out of the 16 people, at least 12 of you, of course, yes, you can say that you are still engaged. And that's the best, actually, and the most relevant indicator. Which one of these are common mistakes in project communication? Defining key messages early, using too much technical jargon, not updating the website regularly, working with multipliers. Which one is a mistake? Absolutely. Okay, perfect solution. Very good. Indeed, these two would be the common mistakes that you can make. Of course, the others are not, and that would be the most important thing to avoid in the future. And otherwise, of course, with the timeline, here you see some kind of an important element now in Horizon Europe. We have a building phase, month 1, month 18, a piloting, month 6, month 30, A using month 36, month 48, and the stabilization month 48, month 60. How long is the project? 36, 48, or 60 months? Let me go back. We have building, piloting, using, and stabilization. How long is the project? Well, it's 48 months. Because the last element is stabilization for the additional 1 year that will be after the end of the project. That is something that you commit yourself to during the proposal writing stage. And then, of course, you have to commit yourself also with signing the grant agreement, because afterwards, of course, you need to continue communicating, disseminating, and exploiting the project results. And that commitment will have to be lasting for at least a year. Actually, the exploitation obligation is for 4 years after the end of the project. All right, and then this is the feedback form. Please describe your experience in the feedback form. I really hope that what me and Valeria said were super useful. I'm sorry for the 5 minutes extra time, but hopefully you liked it very much. This feedback form will be, I suppose, also shared with you in the email that you will receive. Any additional questions that we can answer with Valeria, or is it Friday afternoon? I really appreciate everyone, of course, who stayed, because indeed it's Friday afternoon, and I know that it is not that easy. Well, if no more questions, then that was it. Thank you so much, everyone. Any additional questions, of course, you have now the email address of Valeria and me as well, and then feel free, of course, to ask Alicia or any of the organizers as well. Have a great weekend, everyone, and good luck then, of course, with all of your next activities in dissemination, communication, exploitation.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Valeria.